German Chancellor Angela Merkel's Christian Democrat Party has suffered its second electoral blow in 2 weeks. Exit polls from the Berlin state election show her party suffering its worst result since 1991. The big winner was the anti-immigration Alternative for Germany party, who now have enough votes to enter the state's assembly for the first time. John Ryan is a professor at the Centre for International Studies at the London School of Economics, and he joins us now to talk about what the election result means for Germany. Professor Ryan, thank you so much for your company. Now, Berlin, we're talking about one of the most liberal cities in, well, frankly, the world. How did this election result come to be, or what it has been? And I have an inkling you may say the word refugee in there somewhere.
Well, I think that you're right to say that this is one of the most liberal cities, certainly in Germany and if not Europe. And the city has always had a tradition of left-wing politics, and that is borne out by the results which show, although the SPD had lost votes, the Links Party and the Green Party did reasonably well in the elections. But also, as you mentioned, the Alternative for Deutschland have been picking up votes from some other parties, but especially the Christian Democrats. And there is a proportion of the German population that are very concerned about the terror attacks on German soil and on the refugee crisis. Yet, when you looked at the top three issues in the Berlin elections, you saw the first one was the local economy, the second one was social justice, and the third was education. So, I mean, in the actual election, quite a lot of people were exercised by those particular issues. Underlying that, though, is that, you know, the Alternative for Deutschland now have had very many successes in different regional elections in the European Parliament. And they look quite sure to get into the German Parliament next year, unless something happens that we can't count for at the moment. But certainly there is a proportion of the German population that are extremely exercised by this, and obviously the ongoing Eurozone crisis.
And Professor Ryan, as you have sort of suggested there, the AfD seems to be going from strength to strength. They've just had a big win here in Berlin. Last month, they also defeated Merkel in the local elections, and now we have the upcoming federal parliament elections next year. What kind of potential does this party have, and the kind of power you think they will be wielding in the future?
Well, they did quite well in Merkel's own state, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, a couple of weeks ago, and they'll do well as a receptacle for protest votes on the right, because there are a lot of people feeling that Merkel is not addressing very many of the issues that are concerning German population at the moment. They feel that she's not doing a good job on Europe. They feel that the economy could be better, even though a lot of people think that the German economy is going well. A lot of people within the country are having problems with that. The terror attacks, the refugee crisis, and she seems to be a little bit out of touch with public feeling. Nevertheless, when you look at the options that the Christian Democrats would have to put another leader in place, they're fairly limited. So at the moment, they will have to go to the CDU Congress in December, and she'll have to decide whether she wants to run again. And it's a very long time now, from now until the autumn next year, when the federal elections will happen. In between that, there will be 3 more regional elections that will come up, where probably the AfD may enter those state parliaments. And so the potential for them to be a strong party to pick up votes away from the CDU, but not only the CDU, but we have to remember in Berlin, although the CDU had one of their worst results in Berlin, the SPD lost even more votes in this election. The SPD were usually getting over 30%, and they're down quite significantly from that in this election. So the AfD are an issue, and plus on the left, you've got the Links Party, the former Communist Party of East Germany, and the Green Party. So we've got a situation where, on top of those parties that we mentioned and the FDP who got into the Berlin Parliament as well, we've got 6 parties that are looking for votes in the federal election. And I think Berlin will be indicative of what will happen in the federal elections next year, where we may have 5 or 6 parties getting enough percentage points, over 5%, to actually get into the federal parliament, and therefore getting a coalition that can function in that parliament is going to be difficult.
Professor John Ryan, thanks so much for joining us with your insight.